You know, sometimes when a franchise has messed up so badly, you still have fans that eagerly await any kind of positive development, and when that development finally arrives, they're very quick to embrace it. But from my own experience as a reviewer, I've noticed that in most cases, any kind of random uptick in quality in an overall declining show doesn't usually break the general downward trend. Usually it's more of an anomaly, and in many ways I think that would be a good way to describe the Doctor Who episode called The Well, which is of course the third episode of Ncuti Gatwa's second season as Disney Doctor Who. This episode, which functions as a sequel of sorts to the 2008 episode Midnight from the 10th Doctor's run, is getting some pretty decent reviews by both the mainstream media and even some longtime fans that have been critical of the franchise since the departure of Peter Capaldi. In this video, I will be discussing my thoughts about The Well and why I'm not as enthusiastic about it myself, and if you enjoy getting honest reviews delivered to you regularly, please consider liking and subscribing, as it would really help my channel. The Well starts off with the Disney Doctor and Belinda back on the TARDIS after the events of the previous episode, which took place on Earth in 1952, but now they've jumped 500,000 years into the future, and once again, the Disney Doctor flamboyantly takes Belinda to change their wardrobe so that they fit into their new surrounding. And then, in an extreme moment of cringe, a Britney Spears track is played in the background, which I really think sounds dumb on a show like this, but that's probably the least of its worries. As my friend Will of the Fans has pointed out, and I agree with him, it's not likely that they would immediately just have the right spacesuits and attire to fit into their new setting, and while there was an easy way of adding a sentence of dialogue while showing the TARDIS scanning the new environment and creating spacesuits that would match it, they didn't even bother doing this, which is rather lazy writing. Anyhow, the Doctor and Belinda are then on a dropship carrier, where they and a bunch of other futuristic soldiers are jumping off to go on a mission on a planet called 6767, where there's some colony of workers, all of which have been killed, aside from one survivor, a deaf woman by the name of Alice, and as the episode progresses, it turns out that there's an invisible monster of sorts attached to Alice, that nobody can see, but if you cross a certain line and stand behind her, the creature will kill you. That's the general idea. Eventually, though, while working with the very stunning and brave rescue crew commander Shia, and after referring to male crew members as Babe and Hun, the weeping Disney Doctor gradually realizes that this creature here is the same one that he encountered all those years ago in the episode Midnight. But now the creature has new capabilities that are not just psychological, but more physical, which is why he can just throw soldiers around. And after some internal bickering and the deaths of additional soldiers, the surviving members of the crew, including the Disney Doctor and Belinda, managed to leave the planet mainly due to the heroic actions of the stunning and brave commander, who ends up sacrificing herself to save everybody else. Now, generally speaking, I will admit that out of all the episodes that we've seen since the return of Russell T Davies as showrunner, this is probably the best one. But considering that the David Tennant bait and switch specials were a bunch of weird pronoun lectures and agenda-driven stories, and that the Ncuti Gatwa tenure until now has been a complete and utter disaster, the bar here is just so low. And I've also heard people saying, well, it's better than the entire Chibnall era, but that's pretty much like saying that it's better than a big bowl of poop. I mean, yes, the Will episode was mildly more watchable than anything we've seen in years, but it's not like it's great or even good. At best, you could say it has some brief moments in it that almost feel like Doctor Who. But I'm sorry, I don't give out trophies for extreme mediocrity. If anything, this episode is quite frustrating because it shows that if Russell T Davies makes any kind of effort, however minimal, he's still capable of delivering something that's not complete crap. But he's just not interested in doing so because he prefers spending his time pushing his divisive ideologies, all while giving a middle finger to the very Doctor Who fans that he's built an entire career upon. In addition to that, even if The Well was mildly watchable, if you took this episode's screenplay and gave it to, let's say, the 10th Doctor in 2008, at the peak of Russell T Davies' first tenure as showrunner, this still wouldn't have been considered one of his top episodes. And these days, with Ncuti Gatwa so poorly cast in the role of the Doctor, even when the screenplay is, let's say, a little better than some of the other terrible ones, he still doesn't deliver the kind of performance necessary to sell it. And that's really, really important in Doctor Who. You need the audience goodwill. You need them to suspend disbelief. You need an actor that will portray the Doctor in a convincing way, and Ncuti Gatwa ain't it. And it's not like Virata Sethu fares much better as Belinda here. Now, to be fair, I don't have anything personal against these actors, but not every actor is right for every role. Gatwa always plays the Doctor very flamboyantly, which is not in line with the character of the Doctor at all. And in case it's not clear, I don't care what Gatwa's preferences are in real life or what he does with his personal life, but as an actor, Gatwa needs to stay true to the character's identity and not his own personal identity. And when it comes to Virata Sethu, I don't think she's a bad actress, but she certainly doesn't have the natural likability factor that Millie Gibson had. It's kind of odd how the casting of Millie Gibson was the only thing that Davies got right during his second tenure until now, and of course he had to get rid of her for some reason. And at the end of the day, I know some people are so hungry for good Doctor Who that they're just gonna say, oh well, this is a return to form. But it's not really a return to form. At best, it's a very, very temporary band-aid that for 1 second kind of hid all of the issues with the franchise, which haven't gone away at all. I think it's pretty safe to say that at this point, a real course correction will have to be something much bigger than this. Fundamentally retconning entire eras and maybe even Doctors out of existence. If I had to look at this specific episode, I would say that amidst the final era of a dying franchise, this episode was almost kind of watchable, with brief moments that were okay, and no, that's really not a ringing endorsement. I'm absolutely sure that the legacy media will continue to say that this is the best Doctor Who ever and that this episode is a triumph. But unlike those shill critics, I feel no obligation to praise the well or the current Doctor Who era because I still think that this entire franchise has gone off a cliff, and one episode is not going to change anything. Also, it's not like Russell T Davies even thought of a completely new idea here that blew everybody away. He pretty much just member buried and piggybacked off a past, far superior episode without really improving on it. And some would say that maybe he even ruined that previous episode, which probably should have been left alone. And I suspect that by the time we reach the next episode, there's probably going to be a whole new set of strange agendas shoved in there, so I'm already prepared for that. But if you enjoyed my honest review and you want to get updated anytime I post a new Doctor Who review, please make sure to like and subscribe to this channel. Anything you could do to support me would really help me out, and I would greatly appreciate it. Thanks for watching, my friends. Thank you, and good day.
I am such an awesome guy. I make so many videos. But I'm